Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Well, very pleasant good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome into Life Planning 101 right here on KATX KWBY. It's a beautiful Monday morning, and speaking of a beautiful Monday morning, joining us all the way from up north, it's Angela Robinson. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, and you are right. Up north is correct, and 48 degrees this morning, and flip-flops aren't doing me any justice. I'm just saying. But it is wonderful to be on the show this morning. I am really excited, as always. I'm always excited about this show. You know, I guess we just have this innate desire to be able to educate and provide information for people that want to be helped and want to improve their lives, and that's what this show is all about, right? Helping people live life on purpose. You know, I'll go ahead and admit, I had a joke planned for this morning, Terry, but in our conversation earlier, I thought, oh, what better way to introduce this show than to tell the story of my son we were talking about. You know, we're about to go. We're going to spend a day on the way back to Texas. We're up in Montana seeing a bunch of clients and business owners, and we're going to be headed back to Texas very soon, and we're going to spend a day, and we're going to go through Yellowstone. And my son has decided these days, he's always wanted to be anything ologist. We figured this out. Well, these days it's going to be a volcanologist. And so he's saying, Mom, maybe Yellowstone will explode while we're there. And he's really excited about it. And I looked at him and I said, well, I think that kind of like be the apocalypse, and we'd probably not live through it. He said, well, what's the problem? We're all going to heaven.
From the mouth of babes, they say.
From the mouth of the babes, right? So, you know, the funny thing is this show is one of those shows that some people may consider humbling. But the reason I thought that was such a great story to introduce with is, here's my 6-year-old boy reminding me, you know, to stay humble, reminding me of the wisdom that's behind the simplicity of what God tells us, right? And, you know, there's so many times I think that we get wrapped up in our own success, or we get wrapped up in what's going on, that we forget to open our mind to what's out there. And this is a case in point. I'm going to be specifically talking to business owners today. It's been a while since we've done more of a business owner-oriented show. And, you know, this is so important because, you know, I came across this a couple weeks ago, and I thought, I've got to talk about this on the show. And it's a story about a business owner that I met with about 4 years ago. And at that time, he was sending almost $1 million to the IRS each year. You know, paying taxes. And he wasn't even taking home $250,000 for himself and his family. Think about that. So he's sending the IRS $1 million, and he's not even taking home a quarter of that.
It's like 75% tax.
Yeah, that's well, yeah, more than that. So it's huge. So, you know, he came to us as an introduction from someone that said, you know, I want to lower my taxes, and I heard you guys are the people to see. And so, you know, obviously that was the goal. But in just a few short years, he has pocketed over $1 million into his own new account that was set up at that time, in addition to his normal income and lowering his taxes.
Win-win situation right there.
Yes, it is, right? And, you know, the thing is, we see stories like this all too often. There are so many business owners that are at the mercy of Uncle Sam, leaving them short of being able to get any cash out of their business because they're having to pay Uncle Sam. And then what they're not paying to Uncle Sam, they're reinvesting back into their business. And what is not often realized through this is that cycle, it's not only disturbing, right? It makes you like, but it also creates a lot of risk. And that's what I really want to talk about today. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about how we did this and why we did it. So, you know, one of the things I think is so important, you know, a lot of people, you know, can quote this for years and years and years. You know, back in the 80s, You used to go to a lot of different investment people. Why would you have done that? Why would you have had 2 or 3 stockbrokers and, annuity guys and insurance people? And what was the reasoning behind that? What do you think, Terry?
Just there wasn't nobody could do it all for them, and a lot of times people didn't want one person to know all their business.
Right. They didn't want all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
And this has been like a debunked myth, in our world over the years because, we're independent and we built our business to be able to cater, to not having to do that, not to have so many different professionals, but to have a quarterback of those professionals.
Right.
In a sense. But, you think about that. You think about that wisdom. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. How many times have you heard that? How long have you heard that in your life?
His whole life.
Your whole life, right? And you think if I had told you, if I said, okay, now, Terry, I want you to put all of your retirement funds in a single stock, one single company, what would be your reply to me?
No.
No. And would you probably think I've gone off my rocker?
Absolutely.
So, and even if I said, okay, this is one of the largest stable companies out there. Now, obviously, this isn't an advertisement or a recommendation to buy people. So, but these are large, stable companies that we all know: Walmart, Apple. So, if I said, put all your money in Walmart, all your money in Apple, you'd still think I was probably crazy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's because of that wisdom that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yet the funny thing is, as a business owner, like the one in our story, are we not just doing that?
You're putting everything into your own business and not diversifying.
Correct. Now, I know there's a lot of pushback in a lot of different areas, and that is exactly what we're going to address when we come back right here on Life Planning 101.
And we're back. Segment 2, Life Planning 101. Angela has great information about not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right. And are you getting cash out of your business? Be sure to tweet us at KFS Life Planning and let us know, are you getting cash out of your business? Because that's exactly what we're talking about. And, I came across a little funny about a little boy who had just turned 6. Man, this morning's all about kids, right? He turned to his grandfather and he said, when you die, Grampy, I don't want your money. Just please leave me your memory.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
But isn't it true? Shouldn't that be what we all ask for is, the wisdom that, could be passed along to us from, those years and years of what our parents and grandparents spent their lives working on and having to go through experiences rather than learning from others. But we don't do that as humans. In fact, there's a great quote I love by Douglas Adams. He says, human beings who are almost unique in having the ability to learn from the experiences of others. So we have the ability to do it. Also remarkable for their apparent disinclination to do so. We don't do it. So I keep bringing back this wisdom theme with today's show. And the reason I do is because I think everybody has that feeling, well, she's not talking to me. That couldn't be about my business. After all, this is my baby, right? This is something that I've worked my entire life building, where I started from the ground up, and, this is totally different. I'm in a totally different situation. And I'm not saying that those are out there, but those are the rare exceptions to the deal. Because here's the deal. Lots of business owners, get this pushback when I say don't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to take cash out of your business. And, they're accustomed to just putting everything back into their business and then paying what they have to pay to Uncle Sam. And it's devastating, like the man we told about in the first part of the show that was sending $1 million to the IRS and only taking home less than $250,000 a year. It's crazy. So, the pushback I usually get is the fact that people have control of their own company. If they put their money into even those big companies like Walmart or Apple, they no longer have control of that. And if I have control of my company, I can drive the success of my company. And I don't deny that one bit. I think, a lot of people that put their head down and they see an opportunity and they push forward to pursue that opportunity, they've done that. In fact, if we're talking to a business owner, it usually means they are successful, and they definitely know how to do that, right? They know how to make sure things happen. However, and this is a big however, and this is coming from, we always say wisdom we provide, what we bring to the table more than anything, is not just our experiences, but the experiences that we've shared with the families that we've worked with for over 30 years. That's big.
Huge.
Okay? And it doesn't matter if it's you or any other entrepreneur out there, business owner out there, you have no control over the future of your industry or the economy. You can control your business, but you can't control those things. And things happen.
One industry that just jumps out at me when we're talking about this, Angela, is your farmers.
Yeah.
Because there's so many factors you can be the best farmer in the whole wide world, but if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate, it doesn't matter.
That is exactly right. And the rest of us forget that in business. I mean, we're subject to it. There's robo-advisors, robots, right?
Right.
Robo-advisors in the investment industry. I always like to think that we'd probably be the last people to go because what we work off of is that wisdom, but that's simply not true in the technology world anymore, especially the way it's increasing. And we can't not look at that. We can't just close our eyes or turn our heads and think that it's really not happening. And, another example, Terry, in another different way is pharmacies. So mom and pop pharmacies used to be everywhere, right?
And
we live in a small town that they still exist. However, how long would it take if a CVS or a Walgreens came into Eastland, Texas, for that boat to be rocked?
It wouldn't take very long, unfortunately.
No, it wouldn't. And who has money? The mom and pop shops or the CVS or Walgreens pharmacy?
CVS, Walgreens.
Yeah, exactly. So, you can't control things like that. You can't control recession. Could anybody have predicted 2008? There's people that say they did predict 2008, but they've also tried to predict 4 or 5 other recessions, and they were dead wrong on those. So I call that luck. Yeah. So, recessions happen. That's the economic cycle. And I will tell you, we are in a world today where everybody wants something cheaper and faster and more efficient, because the greatest threat to any American out there right now is time. Time. They don't have enough of it. They don't want to spend it doing things. Why do we have a pickup window at Walmart to pick up our groceries? Right? They want time to be giving back. And if your business isn't moving towards that direction, you're definitely at risk, right? I've talked to a couple of business owners over this last month, and I have one in particular. This guy has been super successful over the last 2 decades. I've known him for about a decade, and he is just unbelievably successful. And, he's still in his 40s. And, he told me, he said, I sold a quarter of my business last year because I see it. The writing's on the wall. I think my value in my business is going down by about 15% a year because technology has outrun me. Think about that.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and it's happening everywhere. I was talking to a retail shop guy, and he was telling me the same thing. He says, everybody gets on Amazon. Everybody gets on this, and I can't get anybody in my store anymore. So do I even need a store? It's happening. Things are changing. The world changes. And I'm not saying that as a business owner, you can't overcome that, because obviously whatever made you great, whatever made you be able to be as successful as you are is still inside you to help you get to that next level or transform your business or just move forward or even be a catalyst in the industry to make those changes happen. And I'm not saying that's impossible at all. But what I am saying is there is a lot of risk in keeping all of your cash in your business, no matter what it is. All your eggs in one basket. right?
Let's not do it.
Let's not do it. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this story that I shared with you in the first segment, because there's an interesting twist that will make all the sense in the world to business owners out there, and you don't want to miss it right here on Life Planning 101.
And we're back. Final segment, Life Planning 101. Angela has some great information to share with us.
Yes, and today's show is all about, are you getting cash out of your business? Every so often we do a business owner-only show. We work with a lot of businesses, a lot of family businesses. I think it's just by the nature of the beast that we are a family business, and it is so important that you're making sure that your business is doing what you built it to do, is, to be successful, and that you can push some cash out of your business. And we went back to a story in the very beginning, and I'll kind of go back over that about, a gentleman that we visited with several years ago, and he had, he's paying $1 million to the IRS, taking home less than $250,000 a year, and we've been working together for a few years now, and he has $1 million that's now outside of his business in addition to his regular income and lower taxes. So, how is he doing that? And there's an interesting twist on this story that I didn't tell you in the beginning. And the twist was there was not any cash to get out of that business when we met him. Between his liabilities to the bank and to Uncle Sam and his desire for expansion, because he was growing, there was nothing left. Nothing left. And I bring this up because so many people say, well, I don't have any cash. I got so much debt I'm paying to the bank, and, or I want to expand, so I'm pushing everything back into my business right now. Well, this was this guy. He was doing both. Yet we still pulled $1 million out of his business, and he still was able to accomplish his business goals. And I can't tell you how many times I wish we could have testimony sometimes. I know in our industry we can't. It's regulated, and I can't tell you how many times we get the remarks after people meet us, and we've been working together for several years, and they say, I wish I would have talked to you years ago. I wish I would have started this years ago. And that's a comment we get a lot. And there's a lot of business owners out there that they believe that they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place in a way of cash flow. They think that this tax and liability situation is just a necessary evil to building that business. And truth be told, okay, sometimes it is, right? But that's not always the case. If you have a successful business, you need to get help. You need to have that wisdom. Because I always believe that, that saying, and maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't, but if first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you.
Yeah.
Right? First you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you, in case you missed that one.
Yeah.
But the truth is, in business, and this is the sad part of that, we're not going to die if we don't get help. But what would happen? And I fast forward, and I could tell you stories of people that we finally get to start working with because their health fails them, and they have to sell their business, or they have to get cash out of their business. They've got nothing to sell, whatever that situation is. And I'm going to tell you, my heart bleeds for those business owners and entrepreneurs that are in that situation, because just like every other business owner and entrepreneur, they put their entire life and passion and hard work and everything into that business. Their family has put everything into that business, and to see hardly anything come out of it, and not to get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, or at least if their health is failing, to be able to have some peace and not be stressed about what's going to happen after they're gone with their family. That it's painstaking. It's really, really painstaking to watch that. And too often, people truly believe that, well, I think I'm just going to do it this way, and I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to keep my head down. I'm not going to take a minute to step back and breathe and see what I can do to get that cash working for me, and get my business working for me, so that I can secure those things in the future. And too little, too late, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's not like skydiving. It's not like you're going to hit the ground dead if you do it. It's slow. It's painful if you don't do it.
I mean, it might drive you crazy.
Right. And every year you wait, the more risk you have. I think, kind of going back to, a lot of kickback that we get or pushback that we get, one of the other things is, not right now. I'm busy. Well, I don't know a business owner that isn't busy, to be honest with you. If you're not busy, obviously you're probably not successful. I'm not saying you can't have a life balance or whatever, and usually that's what I see with successful business owners is they're trying to make that life balance work, and that's what makes them so successful. But, my question to you is, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you in business just to be in business? Are you in business because you love what you do?
I think the majority of business owners are in business because they love what they do and it's a passion.
I agree. So if you love what you do and you love your family enough to make sure that work-life balance happens, why not take that step back to be able to get the most of everything that you're putting forth? Don't do it. I don't know why. My dad always has a saying, he said for years and years and years, he says, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And it's what we don't know that could end up hurting you. Or in this case, just leave $1 million in the table over the next couple of years, right?
Absolutely.
Imagine that guy had not come to us. What would have been the situation there? And, my thinking is either way, probably worth your while to spend a little time finding out what it is that you don't know, because it's just so dang powerful when you have the ability to have your cash on the table. You can always lend it back to your business. People forget that, but yet they don't ever pull it out. Again, tweet us. Let us know. Are you getting cash out of your business? And if you're not, call us. Kennedy Financial Services. If you've been listening to this show long enough, you should know, we're here to help people, and everybody's got a unique situation, and we want to help you. I was talking to a business owner this weekend, and he doesn't have a lot of cash. He doesn't have a lot of funds right now. And I said to him, I love working with you. I love working with you because you want to be helped. And we can only help people that want to be helped. But when people want to be helped and we can watch the fruition after a few years, like this gentleman in our story today, it is so rewarding. So, I encourage you, to let us help you, because that's what we get out of it. We ask that question, why are you in business? I'm in business because I have a passion about what I do. So let the world work the way it's supposed to, and let's all help each other so we can move forward.
Great stuff.
Oh, thanks, Terry. And, it's just such an important topic that we all just tiptoe around, but it's so important. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in the great town of Eastland, Texas. God bless everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.